Hi, this is Charles Hoskinson broadcasting live from warm, sunny Colorado. Always warm, always sunny. Sometimes Colorado. So, I just realized I haven't done an AMA in a really long time, and it's September 17th. Good month. And so I figured I'd do one with me and Logan together. He was kind of falling off the mic because I need an extra rubber band for him, so we'll get one tomorrow. And actually, I'm trying a new product. We've been so tired, from all the work and all the stuff we've done. I bought this crazy Nasal, and it's basically just pure capsaicin. So you just spray it in your nose, and it's pretty horrible, actually. It's like snorting wasabi, but it clears up your sinuses. How about that? It also wakes you up. As I did in my prior video, I was going to go home and get some sleep, but then I said, I spent it with you guys. Come on, how much I love you. Yeah, that we're doing a lot of cool shit. There we go. And we're getting it done, little by little. But we haven't done an AMA in a long time, so it's about time to do one. And I'll let you guys go ahead and throw some questions in. The vaccines turned out not so good. They were a mixed bag. When they first came out, they were particularly effective against the wild type, and then they don't work anymore. And you have to make new ones. And the question is, why make them when people get the disease already and most people do fine? You make lots of money for the pharmaceutical industry. How about that? Charles, can you do the voiceover for Google Maps, please? Yeah, well, they couldn't pay me enough for that. Sorry. No sleep is better than not waking up. That's true. Do you use beard oil? A lot of people told me to do it. I also bought one of those kits that you're supposed to use to like iron your beard and do that. So no, but I should do that. Be a lot of fun. Charles, I have experience teaching Japanese. Any info on providing lessons about Cardano would be very helpful. I'm not sure the correlation between the two, but you mean like you can teach about Cardano in Japanese? You gotta give me a little bit much. You're a sociopath by all accounts, says Dan Wang with the breast picture. Well, thank you, Mr. Wang, for your opinion. I don't know if it's a dang Wang, but it is an opinion. Do you have a license for your Blackhawk, your old Farrier? I have the Blackhawk, but it's still under an ag tag. Can't do anything with it. Waiting on the FAA. Would you ever get LASIK? No, I'm holding out for the whole new eyes thing. The cybernetic eyes, Deus Ex style. Be a lot of fun. Charles, I voted for many projects on Catalyst. Very cool. There you go. Here we go. No, reread it, LO. I teach in Japan. Well, that's a little bit better. Wondering if there are any plans to have courses in Japan. You'll have to talk to Emergo. That's kind of their area. I'm really happy you unblocked Eltano on Twitter. He means well, and his Nokia 3000 is just stuck on cap locks. Well, okay. There we go. You claim to jump out of choppers in Afghanistan. You're not all there, bro. Says who? Random people you've never met? Okay. Don't believe everything you read. When Yelly is not around. It is a canceled program. K is coming along quite interesting. They've done a lot of great work on their side, and I'd love to see a marriage of the K roadmap into Cardano again, but it's just something we're going to have to figure out as a community if we want to go down. We'll put millions of dollars and many years into concepts like K, Yella, semantics-based compilation, and we learned a huge amount, and Grigori was able to produce a lot of great software from it. Unfortunately, we were never quite able to get a meeting of the minds of an actual product roadmap. We did try. Charles, are you 34 years old? And me and my wife are betting she doesn't believe we are strong ADA holders. Well, MetaMates, I am 34, born 1987. How about that? STEMI, how can I find out more information about your medical research facility? I'd love more information and potentially applying. So some of you saw we had an article come out today in the Gillette newspaper talking about the clinic. I just tweeted it. And roughly where it's at, what it's doing. The initial footprint's about 10,000 square feet. My dad and brother helped me set it up, and we'll have about 35 employees in 2023. A lot of physicians, some nurses, and some specialty people like compounding pharmacist, a clinical pathologist is going to be there, and we have some researchers as well, including people experts in genomic medicine. Now, the first step is to kind of cover the primary care needs, both in fee for service and direct primary care in the Campbell County jurisdiction. And then we have some special product lines that we're developing out, in particular hyperbarics, that we're learning a lot from. Now, once we've gotten all the clinical stuff done and we're operating a center of excellence for primary care, direct primary care and fee for service primary care, we're going to move into concierge care and then actually start taking a look at literature and developing a protocol based upon best in class knowledge about anti-aging. We also will have clean rooms and a collection of other things so we can make potentially stem cells and other things that we see fit based upon the regulations and facts and circumstances. So it's a slow burn. I've been working on it privately for over a year, and we're getting close to opening. We've been, really putting a ton of effort in, and we had to find a good location. Turned out the best location, Gillette, was an old restaurant. We bought it, had to do everything. We got easements in 4 different places to get a sewer line in, put fiber optic in. We put an enormous amount of work into getting the architects to design something really cool and interesting. There's a ton of stuff that's going into it. And it's really going to be a center where people can come to get extremely advanced diagnostics done, above and beyond what most people we're looking at, like early onco labs, kind of similar to what Grail is doing. We're going to be doing a lot of genomic medicine where we actually do a full genome sequence. We understand your genes at a very deep level. And then once we have all that information, we come up with a 360 care plan, everything from how to eat your foundations right. So like the American College of Lifestyle Medicine recommends. So how do you eat right? How do you sleep right? And how do you get the right physical exercise, to what type of pharmacological interventions, both on the allopathic and naturopathic side, can be integrated to make you feel better. Then moving beyond that, you can start talking about optimization, neural optimization, and procedures in particular that can be done to increase your health. And those some of the things can be like mindfulness, some things can be like hyperbarics, some things can be like transcranial neural stimulation, some things can be like photobiomodulation, et cetera, et cetera. And we're going to be in a very evidence-based way of doing things. Like, for example, hyperbarics, I would love to structure a placebo-controlled double-blind clinical study where we use a hyperbaric chamber alongside some advanced imaging to, like a SPECT scan and MRI, to get a good sense of whether hyperbarics can reverse or mitigate some of the damage done with a TBI, a traumatic brain injury. So that'll be one of the first studies that we start constructing once that center's open. And we'll just keep adding and adding and adding. And over the many years, we'll come up with a lot of really cool stuff. And eventually we will have mass market products that we come up with, and executive physicals and telemedicine for people who want stuff remote. So good to actually have something opening at the end of the year. It's been a long road. This is one of those nice questions. How does it feel to be a billionaire when the rest of the planet is starving? As if my status caused that. You guys, you just live in a bizarre world of the haves and the have-nots. After the FUD bomb that was dropped on social media a month or so ago, you said we'd probably not see Vossel until the new year. Was that just an emotional outburst, or was that a genuine concern? I never said that. So whatever the hell you said, that was just a lie. I said that people would say that we wouldn't see Vossel. That's what I said. You see, you got to be careful. You got to listen. I'm very precise with a lot of things I say. I said the FUD bomb would make people believe that Vossel would not come. But 135.3 is what we're forking with. Nothing materially changed from what we said. Charles, will Daedalus ever show token value? Daedalus shows currently ADA value. To get token value, you have to get a feed for it. So if an oracle is exposed from the dexes, it could be integrated in, or if it's listed on an exchange, it obviously would come through CoinGecko. So it's that's the contingency, not us. Charles, how's the project in Africa going? Quite well, Antonio. We got the possession relationship. They just raised $11 million, and we're putting together a real cool RealFi plan. And we'll have more to say actually in November. Actually, it's all coming together, the identity component, the wallet component, and also the application stack. World Mobile is also doing really, really well. Ah, mais French model. Bonjour. Well, bonjour. All 8 founders confirmed that story. Yeah, did they? Really? Even Anthony Diorio and Amir Shatrid, who weren't even in the house, or Joe Lubin, who wasn't even in the house? They all confirmed that, huh? And I'm actually one of the 8, so by definition, no. Or Gavin Wood, he wasn't there either, so not him. Just me high. People make up shit. God, you're crazy, man. Charles, are you on board with the WEF? God, no, I didn't even go. Oh, here we go. Charles, could you please explain what happened with Stacy, the Algorand Foundation CEO? Um, I'm friends with Sylvia McCauley. I've been on panels with him. I've had dinner with him multiple times. He's a very nice guy, and I knew him before Algorand came out. We'd run into each other on the circuit because he does crypto stuff and we do crypto stuff, and that's crypto for cryptography, and that was prior to cryptocurrencies. In fact, first time I met him was at Financial Cryptography in Malta, and we had a lovely dinner at an Italian restaurant. You see, I like what they've done with Algorand. There are a lot of real cool ideas in that ecosystem, and there's a lot of good technology in that ecosystem. They have a long way to go, and they have a lot to do. Now, the Algorand Foundation has always been an interesting artifact. There's the Algorand Corporation, Algorand Foundation. One Silvio runs, one Stacy runs. Now, I don't know too much about Stacy. I don't believe I've ever met her. I do know their CTO quite well because she poached one of my employees, John Woods, and had him come over to the Algorand Foundation. Very inconvenient time, but she offered him a king's ransom to go over. I'd have taken the deal. And it is what it is. These things occasionally happen, and we poach sometimes from certain people, but we'd never tried to take anybody from the Algorand side because we had a lot of respect for that organization. It's not reciprocated, I guess, in that regard. There's also been some things I've heard where the foundation, Cardano Foundation, has been disinvited from events because people at the Algorand Foundation requested it. I haven't personally been able to confirm that, but I've heard it directly from the people disinvited. And I have no reason to believe they would just lie about something as strange as that. So I'm not really sure what the agenda is or what the value is in this pettiness and also in the desire to poach. It doesn't materially hurt Cardano. There's just this is an apples to oranges thing, but it does hurt our ability to collaborate. There's a lot of things on the list that would be mutually beneficial, like developing a post-quantum VRF is one thing. We both use threshold signatures. There's a lot of things that need to be done there. We use that in Mithril. They use it in different areas. And to me, it makes a lot more sense to do research collaborations because they poached a lot of the IBM research people with Tal Robbins' group. And there's some things they're quite good at. And there's some things we're quite good at that they're not. And it would make sense just to work together. We have the lab at Stanford. We have people at CMU. We have people all around that we can talk to on a regular basis for everything from formal mathematics to game theory. We don't really need to work with one group or the other. There's enough brilliant people to do any amount of research, but we're both in the same space. We're both neighbors, and we do get along quite well with the Algorand Corporation. I've just never really understood the Algorand Foundation. So she tweeted something bizarre today, which I didn't understand either, saying if you question the integrity of the Algorand Foundation, that you should sell your currency. There's been many times where people have questioned my integrity, and just this very chat, I've been called a sociopath. You guys saw it based on some stuff written by silly people. There's been many times people have questioned the integrity of the Cardano Foundation or other actors. Never once did anybody say you should liquidate your ADA because you happen to dislike one of the members of the community. It's like saying you should abandon your political party because you don't happen to like a member of your political party. Imagine you really strongly dislike Bob Dole, or you really, really strongly dislike Governor Hickenlooper, and therefore you can't be a Republican or a Democrat. There shouldn't parties be bigger than people, and similarly shouldn't protocols be bigger than a particular foundation. even if you believe the foundation has an integrity issue or something like that. So I wasn't commenting on the context. It just came up my Twitter feed, and I said, God, that's strange. And so I just tweeted something about it. Again, because I happen to respect Silvio and his work and his people and his researchers, and also view Algorand as one of the good protocols in the third generation that has a lot more to do and a lot more to say. And I like John Woods. If I didn't, I wouldn't have hired him back in the day. And we worked very well together. And I figured that there would be a lot of collaboration with John, and we'd be able to find a lot of things. And so I just felt it was bizarre to personalize the protocol in such a way and counterproductive, which is why I commented on it. You'll find this a lot. People poach all the time. Dfinity once tried to poach some of our people. They weren't successful. Mina Protocol was for one of our employees, and they continue to try. And it is what it is. We'll poach back then when they do that. It's just how that works. Either you get along or not. And you focus on the work. You focus on the papers, you focus on the code that you need to write, and you go and get it done. Hi, Charles. What's happening with pipelining? Well, it's enabled. The stake pool operators are doing it, and you're doing it if you have Daedalus 5.0. It's there. How high did you get during the video shoot with Champ? Well, I will remind you that marijuana is illegal in the state of Wyoming, sir. So obviously none of that happened. Charles, when can we expect DID integration? Great topic. We're right now working on integrating Atala Prism with Lace. Now, Prism is going through a big retrofit. Version 2.0 will be the integration point, and Lace obviously has to get launched. So next year, there will be an identity center and a tight identity-based wallet. A lot of work is going into it. Start slow, things like human readable addresses and maybe a premium tier for wallet recovery. But then eventually you could talk about travel rule integration, stuff like what VRite is doing. And so it's just one of those things. How do you approach concrete evidence Chico presented today about you and Cardano? I don't even know what Chico said, Dan. Why am I even at these? Get out of here. Why do you care about Molten Tar Monster 3? Concrete evidence. Okay. Hi, Charles. In your hydroponic research, what style of newts are you thinking about? Right now, we're thinking about what Hydrogreen is doing with fodder production. That's what we're working on. And I want to get a fodder module sometime next year installed to feed the bison. It's a good entry point. Also have small-scale vertical hydroponic farming and mushroom farming with Farmbox Foods, and they're definitely working on it. Those will be installed here this weekend, and then we'll get somebody to kind of run them. But we've worked with Farmbox for years now, and Hydrogreen is a new relationship. A little side gig. Charles, you can use pomade and get your hairstyle before the AMA. You can get a community to vote with which hairstyle. Guys, this is not OnlyFans. I haven't gone down the Charles version of Belle Delphine quite yet. I know you'd love that to happen, but it's not going to happen. Oh, here's the alt account. You guys actually buying into the BS this guy's spewing. Jim, what's the BS so far? Honestly, what's the BS? You come on, you got a whole audience here, 740 people live stream. What you got for me? Come on. Give it to me. Give it to me. Just one thing that's been said right now in this presentation. That's BS. Have you heard of the Methuselah Foundation? I assume they're related to anti-aging. You see, again, nothing specific. These critics, they're so bizarre. These are just outright liar. They use innuendo. There you go. It's great. And then the same question repeated. I answered it. I think these are bots. I've seen a huge surge in bots on Twitter recently, and a lot of bots in the comments section. And I think they're there to demoralize and degrade. And I think it's part of a large psyops campaign for traders to hurt things, because it's kind of strange. Hi, Charles. This is Brett from Longmont, Colorado. Hello, neighbor. What is the most important thing about Cardano that folks new to crypto should know? Cardano is an evidence-based, peer-reviewed, third-generation cryptocurrency that seeks to bring economic identity and banking to the world for those who don't have it. Built with decentralized principles and led and operated by its community. How will you fund this research? Which research? Are you talking about the post-quantum VRF and these things? Usually that's open source research. It's done the same way we fund the Stanford lab and any other things. See, again, I'm actually thinking this guy's a bot. Jim, if you're not a bot, can you let us know? Can you type something? What is your favorite color of rabbit? And where is the first time that you saw a rabbit? So can you give me a color and a city, Jim? I'm really curious to see what Jim's going to give me here, because I think he's actually a bot. That's curious. That'd be a cool data science problem. Take a look at this. Go back down in the new comments. From Daniel Kamish, thoughts on 3D fractals? Have you seen the animations of the Mandelbrot, and how is it possible that's not designed? Because chaos is crazy. Yeah, I think Jim's a bot. Mm-hmm. Charles, I'm so grateful for your plans to do clinical trials for hyperbaric therapy. I was severely vaccine injured April of 2021. I went through hell for 16 months. HBot brought me back. Yeah, I read your email you sent to me, Steve. I would love, once we have everything running, to actually see if we can do a clinical trial. It just depends on where you're at, but it's going to be at least June of next year for the Hyperbaric Center to be open, and it's probably going to take a little while to get all that done. And we're still working on some of the licensure for it. So there's a fellowship you do for hyperbaric medicine. The physicians are going through it at the moment. We still also have to kind of build up everything. So it's a huge amount of work. But once it's operational, it'll be really fun to take a look at what clinical trials we can do first with it. Are you working on epigenetic reprogramming? So your hardware are the genes, your software, the epigenome, and that's the genes that are turned on. So what proteins are you making from your genes? And you can do that actually with environmental factors like pressure, high pressure, and high oxygen actually turn on and turn off certain genes, which is why hyperbaric chambers work. Over 800 different genes that get expressed from hyperbarics, from a paper that came out in 2008. And that's one of the first things we're going to validate with our chamber. How are you liking the new Rick and Morty so far? New episode tomorrow. I really like it. I think it's super cool. Charles, is IOHK still working on other crypto projects? Yes, we are. Any thoughts on how IOHK could improve Lunic? We have nothing to do with Luna or Luna Classic, any of these things. It was a Ponzi then, it's a Ponzi now. The model is broken. If you want to look for a better Luna, that's Jed. That's the fixing for it. Do Kwon was a pretty nasty person. I never met him. I know nothing about him. I just know that he dissed us over Twitter, buying some ADA for the negative correlation. Yeah, how'd that fuck work out for you? There are just some people in this industry that are just true pieces of shit, and he was one of them. And I'm very glad that he's gone now. The space is better for it, and I just don't understand people who embrace these things. All these brilliant VCs. Oh, we're crypto VCs, and we know so much, and they go in and they invest in this garbage. And you look at the economics of it, you look at the design of it, you look at the technology behind it, and you say Ponzi, 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 Ponzi all the way through. They say, oh, but we're making so much money. Yeah, until you don't, then you lose everything. And then you create $600 billion of losses. And then guys like me, we have to go and clean up the mess. We have to deal with these giant White House reports. We have to deal with all the regulatory consequences. We have to deal with all the after effects, the hurt investors. And you guys keep the money. Yeah, thanks. Thanks for nothing. What's your opinion on the White House digital asset framework? I'm still reading the reports. I will have an opinion in a bit. We did get some advance notice because we did work with NIST and others, but we have not gone through all of it. It's a lot of work. There's like probably 400 or 500 pages of context there. You talk about Lace a lot, and your endorsement is very influential. What do you think about other wallet projects like Giro and Eternal? Okay, so Larry, what I want is a certified and uncertified wallet world. So I want an open standard for wallets. And basically, my commitment is any wallet that's certified, I endorse. And any wallet that's uncertified, I do not. It's that simple. Because if it's an open standard and it adheres to security and quality and usability, then I know that if a person has that, their funds are safe, or at least safer than the average. So that's the deal. So one of the things I'll commit to doing is trying to figure out how to get to an open standard for wallet certification and to create an ecosystem where it's a process a wallet developer can go through and get done. And then Lace will get certified, and any other wallet that gets certified, I'll recommend. Charles, what do you look for in dissect and research papers? Well, this is a good question. So it depends on the nature of the paper. So what discipline does it come from? The first thing we all do, and even if they don't say they do it, you look at the authors. Very first thing, you read the title and the authors, and you kind of look at the affiliations, these types of things, because if you've been in the business long enough, you get a good sense of who's good at what, where, and if you know the names or not. And then basically that tells you what to expect. So if I see a Yehuda Lindell or a Dan Bonnet or a John Katz, that's a very different thing than seeing an Andrew Miller or David Mazeres or something like that. Their writing style, the level of rigor that they use, the type of proofs you're going to expect, the level of precision they have in the language that they use, and then ultimately how much is a hand wavy and how much is not, and these types of things. Some people are very, very good writers, and they're just beautiful, and it's fun to read. I really enjoy Phil Wadler's papers, and I really enjoy Silvio Macaulay's papers. Adi Shamir as well. I think he's a phenomenal writer. Others they're very technical and they're very dry, and it's like, ugh, they're tough papers to get through. So then you read the introduction and the conclusion, and you just try to orient yourself and get an understanding of, well, what am I getting myself into? And what are you claiming, and how ambitious are you? And then you look at the conclusion, and it kind of gives you a sense of, what are they, how much do they claim to solve? You see, and then you can go through section by section, and you kind of extract out the major results. Reading a proper research paper that has lots of math in it in a domain like cryptography or distributed systems, it takes a good week, 2 weeks to get through that paper to a point where you can replicate the protocol on paper, where you understand enough about it, where in pseudocode you can kind of write out, sketch out the core features of it and speak about it intelligently. Now, unfortunately, most of these papers, it's very difficult to reproduce all the proofs inside the papers because in many cases you don't get a full proof, but rather a proof sketch, and they tend to leave proofs in the appendices. There's a variety of reasons for that, usually around paper limitations for the conferences that they referee them at. And also, in some cases, they haven't actually fully proven everything, or they've only given a partial result. So this is becoming increasingly common. We see some cases not. Some cases people are very rigorous, and a lot of notation. Some cases a little bizarre. So it just depends on the nature of the paper. But in general, the introduction, conclusion, the scholarship, the authors, and if it's been peer reviewed or not, it tells you a lot. And then if you're interested, you look at the protocol, and then you tend to group things together. Like for proof of stake, there's a BFT style approach, which is what Algorand takes, and then there's other approaches like what we've taken that look a lot more like what Bitcoin does, but in POS land. And so there's families of these types of things. And zero knowledge cryptography is the same. There's families of these types of things. Like, are they using class groups or are they using something else? And then you look at it and you say, oh, okay, I get that. I understand that. And then you kind of get a sense, okay, well, what are they really claiming here? Is this one of those better, faster, cheaper plays? Or is this a new capability that we haven't seen before? So is this like, oh, you don't have to do trusted bootstrap anymore, or you have quantum resistance or something like that? Oh, okay, pretty interesting. And how far along is there an implementation or these types of things? But that's generally how I read papers in this space. But that's for this space. But then when you look at medical research, that's a whole different thing. There's a lot of statistics in that. You have to think carefully about the experimental construction, confounding factors. Here with cryptography, you have an adversarial model, and then you have well understood techniques that people have. And then you ask, is it a simulation? These types of things, GUC. There's all kinds of stuff that goes into this, but it's pretty structured, and you just bucket it together, and then you look real closely, and I'd say, am I convinced that this is a pretty good argument? With biological research, it's different because you're looking for evidence, and you're presenting the nature of evidence, and you're trying to reason about, well, what does that actually mean? So it's a very different type of reading. Charles, how long before Atala Prism is in use for systems of credit for loans? Probably next year. I know Possession will be doing something next year with Cardano, but it's hard to say exactly when that's going to be a DID issued from Atala Prism with a reputation system on it. It might be a more graceful bridge from their proprietary credit scoring to a more open credit scoring system. The NPL rate is great, though. It's 2% versus 40. Charles, have you seen the latest Chico crypto video? He is ready. Is he like challenging me to a fight again or something? I don't watch the channel, guys. So, oh, now it makes sense. Like Lynette and all these things. It's Chico doing engagement marketing. Okay, now this all makes sense now. Okay. Charles, is that the cup of a carpenter on a safe? Yes. And I actually took that to Petra. You get the reference. How about that? I got this anti-aging biotech, so I figured I'd put it together. Yeah, man, see, it all comes together. There's always a reason with this stuff. From Lus, hey Charles, I love seeing you have a chat with Crypto Crow. He's working on some new social media and other cool stuff. I definitely am going to have one. He might come to Rare Bloom, or we might do something online. he's working on a lot of cool stuff, some wargaming stuff too, and he's planning on building some things on Cardano. I like Crypto Crow. He's a cool dude. I know some people don't, but I've never had a bad interaction with him. When new podcast studio, it's going to be built downstairs in Suite 102. Yeah, or 103, excuse me. And we're right now talking to architects about it. And I promise you, it's not going to look like the original Joe Rogan, Austin, Texas podcast studio. Charles, how do you filter through all the bullshit in the world? Um, well, you think about what incentive and perspective does that person have, and 9 times out of 10, if they're a real human being, the incentives or perspectives are misaligned, and so in which case it's not personal. That 10th out of 10th time, it is personal because they're just an asshole. So 9 times out of 10 don't bother you, and the 10 time out of 10, the question is who's that person and what's they to you? Most often, and nobody. They're just nobodies punching for nothing. And if there's someone close to you though, and you have a relationship with them, it does tend to bother you from time to time. Like a great example would be I knew Max Kaiser for years. We announced Ethereum on a show, and I announced Cardano on a show, and I'd had dinner with him before and Stacy, and we had actually a pretty cordial relationship. And then out of the blue, for no particular reason, he just took the crazy pill and went total Team Orange, and then suddenly went from a good, nice relationship, where we'd say hey and hang out and these things. I'd see him at Satoshi Roundtable and so forth, to and them asking me to sponsor their show, to him comparing me to Epstein for taking paycheck protection money. Like bizarre, weird shit, and prognosticating that I'm going to be in jail in a year or something like that. And we're all scammers and only Bitcoin is the source of truth. Now, well, that one stung a little bit because I knew the guy and had a relationship, in that I felt like, well, we weren't friends. I mean, you're never really friends with people in the media. At least there was an understanding and a consideration where we treated each other with respect. And then he just kind of threw us over the rails to, I guess, advertise Bitcoin. Maybe he got money from Blockstream or something to go Team Orange. Who knows? And he made it really personal, the criticism, just bizarre stuff. So every now and then you see things like that, and you don't know why people do it. And it kind of jars you a little bit because you get a sense of a person and you don't think they're going to go that direction. And then what do? Well, you just say, okay, it is what it is. And you move on, and you try not to let it bother you too much. And for the most part, it doesn't, but it does surprise me. And it actually kind of makes me a little sad. Thoughts on two major block producers controlling ETH since the merge. Building a consensus algorithm that is both secure and decentralized, as well as fair, is extremely hard. And you guys are all going to live it now in the Ethereum world. And you're just so smart and you're just figuring it all out. Okay. Welcome to Proof of Stake. We've been here for a while. And I hope you guys start understanding why we designed Ouroboros the way that we did. You mentioned about building a media studio this year. Yeah, so I own this building, and downstairs is where we're going to build a podcast studio. We were hoping to get it done this year, but the tenant that was in that room didn't move out, so we'll get it done next year because they wanted a little bit more time. Charles, when will you take a bigger stake in Ergo's development? Currently, we don't have any stake at all. I just own a little bit of Ergo because of the legacy of Alex Chirpinoy working at IO. I really like Alex. I really like the Ergo ecosystem, and I would love to find a way to collaborate with that ecosystem, take a larger role, because it would be the perfect test bed to roll out Ophelamos, useful proof of work. There's an enormous amount of development effort that'd be required, and a lot of plumbing that needs to be put together to make Ergo truly a tier one cryptocurrency. But I love the community, and it's exactly what I hoped for when we were looking at Ethereum Classic. Um, when we came in with a beautiful roadmap there, we were received with skepticism and just craziness and toxicity, which everybody who enters that ecosystem tends to get if they invest any amount of time. With Ergo, every time we come in, it's just welcomeness and open arms and friendliness, and people really like us, and we really like them. And every community event I go to, it's a lot of fun, and it's just a great small cap currency, and it's got a lot of hope and a lot of vision, and it reminds me a lot of like Bitcoin in the early days, which is maybe why I got a soft spot for Ergo. So I would love to do more there. It's just a question of time. And right now we're so committed and focused to Cardano, and we have an enormous amount of work ahead of us. So we got to get that off the plate first. Can you talk about the ISO 222 rollout? Well, it's not like you flip a switch. It's a collection of capabilities and interfaces you need to be interoperable with a lot of this open banking stuff that's happening. And a vast majority of them have nothing to do with the cryptocurrency space. So we did do an analysis of it, and it's just something that would best be rolled out probably in an enterprise framework. So my hope is that we can find a way to combine it with a Firefly integration, and that would probably solve it, because then you could run it on an ATM or a legacy banking infrastructure. But it's a known artifact, and people seem to make a big deal about it, but it's not a big thing for open banking at the moment. This one is another example of just perplexing and bizarre behavior. So Ethereum is a great example of this. You have commissioners say Ethereum is not a security. Okay, but now I guess it's not the official position of the agency, but there's a strong implication that if Bitcoin's not, then Ethereum's not. They're both proof of work. And for 3 years, the Ethereum community tells the entire world what they're going to do. Heads of state are informed. Governors are congratulating Vitalik, like Governor Polis in Colorado. Google has like an official countdown for the merge. There's enormous amounts of academic work that's done, huge amounts of community work. All the regulated exchanges are doing it. It's a known thing in Coinbase's S1 filing when they go for their IPO. And only after all of that, when they switch over, does the chairman say, well, now I guess they could be a security? Maybe you should have like proactively said, hey, if you go down this road, you're becoming a security. Don't do it. I just don't understand. I don't. There's just one thing that's said and the other doesn't make any sense. So hopefully we get to a point where things improve and get better, but it just feels very adversarial right now. And my hope is that some sort of Hegelian synthesis can be done with the Financial Innovation Act that Lummis and Gillibrand have, as well as this recent executive order output with the White House. They can come together, and the legislative branch can actually pass a law that gives everybody the clarity that they need. Asset classification, the role of the CFTC, the role of the SEC, what exchanges are supposed to do, custodial standards, tax standards, cross-border settlement, KYC, AML considerations, ratings, all kinds of things need to be resolved. So a lot of it can be resolved through work with regulators. Some has to be resolved through new legislation. It just has to be done. And this is long overdue. And I'd argue the legislative branch has been negligent in their duty. Now, why hasn't anything been passed? They're waiting for the end of the 2022 midterm election. And then wherever those cards fall, the beginning of the year was an overwhelming red wave. Now it's starting to lean a little bit more blue. Who the hell knows? It's probably going to be split where the Republicans take the House and the Democrats keep the Senate. Who knows? Wherever that lies, it'll calm everything down and something will get passed next year, more often, more likely than not. And then we have clarity moving forward as an industry. it remains to be seen if it's going to be a good thing or a bad thing. I've had my say. A lot of people in industry have had their say. We've certainly engaged with a lot of congressmen, a lot of senators, and we've done a lot of work to try to educate people. But I'm just getting a little tired of the adversarial nature of things and how people want to use regulation as a cudgel to harm their competitors. It's not proper. It's not the American way. It's not how we should do this. It's something we need to grow up and move beyond. At the end of the day, there are problems, and those problems will only be solved with clarity. And clarity is not applying a 80-year-old framework to things today and just magically expecting everything to work. You will destroy everything of value, offshore the industry, and at the end of the day, make the entire industry less safe if you do that. I've watched many crypto people talking to Congress, and by far, Charles, you did the best, blew the entire crypto community away. It was tough because actually the questions we thought we were going to get, we got very different ones, and I did my best. I'm not a lawyer. I just tried to represent everybody. I didn't even mention Cardano, I think, once in that. I said I'm a representative of the industry. We have to put on a pretty face. I cleaned up my beard a little bit, put on a suit, and went out there and did my best. I'm not perfect, but it's an obligation I have to the industry. And we did everything we could to try to be friendly and open and work with people at the end of the rainbow. Maybe it moved the needle, maybe it didn't. I don't know. It was a little disheartening when I looked at cryptocurrency Reddit and the comments there afterwards. Some people said, wow, I guess he did an okay job. But I think the biggest issue we have as an industry is that if we actually work together and we actually coordinated together, we would be in a position where we're unstoppable. Because at the end of the day, what we're selling is freedom. We're selling liberty. We're selling technology that raises people up and makes people equal and gives people fair markets to work with. But instead, we have this insane tribalism that's so pervasive that every single person is captivated by it in some way and polarized by it in some way. And you can't even make a comment anymore. I said Ethereum is the Hotel California of crypto now. Why? Well, because when you stake, you got to lock it. And who the hell knows when you can leave, when you get your stake back? That's a direct reference to the song. It's such a lovely place. You can check in, but you can't check out. So yeah, you can lock it, but you don't know when you can unlock it. It's just a tongue-in-cheek comment, but it really captures the current reality of the consensus mechanism they've chosen. Many people aren't aware of. And then you read the comments on cryptocurrency Reddit, and it's like, what fucking planet do you guys live in? This is nuts. And yet we're supposed to go to Washington and tell the regulators that we can take care of ourselves as an industry. Tell them we're adults and we got it all figured out and just trust us. It's all going to be okay. Lose $600 billion of value over scandals like Celsius and Luna. And then somehow it's going to be fine and it's all going to work out. Trust us. Come on, guys, grow up. Honestly, grow up. It's not working. And it's a draining industry to be in every day. Very draining, very harmful, very hurtful. It just eats away at people little by little, and it's got to stop. We got to be welcoming, inviting. We got to be friendly with each other. We can't do crazy shit anymore. And yes, you can joke around on Twitter. You can have polite little jabs here and there. It's one thing to say Hotel California. It's another thing to say a person's a sociopath, a criminal, a con man, a scammer. Everything I don't believe in, that I don't agree with, is evil. The person running it is literally Hitler, and his only intention is to harm people. And then we go to the regulator and say, but trust us, we got it all figured out. Come on, grow up. Charles, does Cardano use cryptographic sortition? No, that's a technique that's used by BFT protocols, in particular Algorand, for how they select things. We use a different mechanism to select people. Charles, is layer 0 versus layer 1 just semantics? Not really. Layer 0 usually refers to the network stack. It's seldom referred this way because they're bundled together, but actually it's quite meaningful. Where's the lobster? I just have to put him back on the mic. Do billionaires get lonely? Well, of course they do. That's why they buy donkeys, mini donkeys. And Mr. Tibbers is doing quite well. Got him another mini horse to hang out with named Gus Gus. They love each other. Mm-hmm. Ever been to that Supermax prison in Colorado? No. Why would I go? I don't even know if they let people in. Good old Supermax. And what do they do with the donkeys? They make an ass of themselves. Ha 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 ha. Thoughts on Twitter and Musk? You know, that is one of the most interesting things I've seen in a long time. You don't see these very often in business. Every now and then you get the shotgun wedding. And boy, we're really just we're just going for a ride. So Elon got it in his head that buying Twitter was a good idea. I don't know where he got it in his head. I don't know. Maybe he was at Burning Man doing lots of drugs with Jack Dorsey, or who the fuck knows. This guy, he's on a different level. Okay. So he gets in his head, this is a great idea. Buying Twitter is the best thing since sliced bread. And he's riding high because he's the world richest guy and markets are doing real good for him. So he starts making some gestures towards it, buys a little bit of the stock, and then says, I'm going to buy you now. And then the board, very rightfully so, said, well, we have some concerns here because you're running like 6 companies and doing all this crazy stuff around here. And there's this maelstrom of chaos that's around you. And, we're real concerned that if you get involved in the operations of our business, that potentially this would not be good for the shareholders and not good for the employees. And then Elon says, well, that's a legitimate concern. How about $44 billion? And the board's like, that would be great. So here's this contract. And if you're willing to give us that $44 billion with no backsies, you can just do whatever the fuck you want to do. So he kind of did the Minecraft Microsoft thing, where Mojang was like, yeah, we were all about the open ethos and we love gaming and all this stuff. And then Microsoft's like, here's $2 billion. And he's like, well, everybody's got a price. Goodbye, everybody. And, now it's part of Microsoft. So originally when he offered it, I said, wow, okay. So under the hood, he probably chopped it up and there's some investment banks and all these other people are going to come on in. He'll take the lion's share and be the face and take the credit and do a private equity thing. He'll come in and take it back public in 3 to 5 years after he's done whatever the hell he wants to do with it. Okay. And I thought, maybe this is political cover, that he made a deal with the Republican Party where all the stuff that the Twitter executives were doing with the Democrats, he would, because of Sarbanes-Oxley, be able to unblind that and drop it in the election and, weaponize it and do all kinds of things. And if he's helping the red wave, they're going to reward him with government contracts and all this other stuff. So, very cynical, like it's like the Washington Post with Bezos. It's a power play. You own new media. You have a lot of influence. It's going to help his government sponsored companies like SpaceX and Tesla. That's what I was thinking. I was like, okay, it's a little expensive. I don't think it's worth 44 billion. But what really surprised me is the no backsies part. You can't do due diligence. You can't do this. It just is what it is. So he collects it, and it looks like he's going to take it over. And then markets go to hell because of the whole Russia invasion. And suddenly his net wealth goes to hell, and financing is a little harder. So instead of being a luxury acquisition with some good strategy behind it, turns out to be a pretty significant commitment in time and other things. And I think after talking to the Twitter employees, he realized that maybe when you're kind of right wing taking over a place that's 98% Democrat registered, in San Francisco is going to be real hard for you. I mean, he has to basically move the company, and he's going to have to rebuild the entire company from the ground up and hire hundreds, if not thousands, of new engineers and new management. And it's like draining the swamp of the CIA or something like that, or the State Department, and adjusting its political philosophy. It's too much work, and he didn't have the time for it. He really doesn't, and he knows that better than anybody else. So then he says, well, Twitter is filled with bots, and they should have told me it's more than 5%. Really? They're just like news to you today? Bots? You really just figured it out? You just like one day you look at your Twitter feed and you said, man, there's a lot of bots on my Twitter feed. Wow. You weren't aware of it when people were impersonating you on a daily basis for crypto giveaways? That there's a lot of bots on Twitter, probably more than the 5%. This is just like news to you, man. And now he's trying to get out of the deal, and like a true shotgun wedding, he had the one night stand, and now he's got the kid on the way, and dad's got the gun, and he's like, oh, you got to come here. But what's so crazy about it is there's not a single person probably in the Twitter organization that must to buy it. The board doesn't even want him to own it. They probably think he's not capable of leading the company. Yet they're suing him to buy it because they have a fiduciary obligation to maximize shareholder value. So at the end of the day, if he loses and he ends up having to acquire the company, he's going to have to figure out what the hell to do with it. And if he, wins and then he walks away, he's caused a lot of damage to the integrity of Twitter, which may be irreparable. Now, maybe he's playing some sort of crazy 3D chess where he's got something figured out where he's going to do a decentralized social network after this whole Twitter shebang. And by doing this, he got access to a lot of proprietary information, and he crippled Twitter for a little bit of time, and he's going to do something cool. Maybe he's a smart guy. I don't know. But to me, it seems like he came up with a harebrained idea. He didn't completely think it through. He committed an enormous amount of money when he had a lot of spending money, like fuck everyone money. And then when the money dried up, he tried to back out because it was going to be a lot more expensive and time consuming than he realized. And also taking over a publicly traded company, turning it private, cleaning it up, that's really hard to do. Not many people do that really well. And unless you're the founder of the company and you have material emotional connection or unique knowledge of that industry, it's really in practice hard to do that. And he was basically going to do that. And it's a big animal, and it's a very controversial animal because every journalist seems to love living on that damn platform and enjoying it. So anyway, that's my read of the situation as it is. And it's a shame because if he was really interested in this field, like he really wanted to innovate, you just get a pack of us crypto guys together and we could figure out a protocol that probably cost about 50 to 100 million in engineering to launch. And it would absorb most of the cryptocurrency space pretty quickly with Musk's network. And he'd probably have as many users within 3 years as Twitter had, and have a much, 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 much better place. I mean, just partner with us and Brave. We could pull together a world-class research team. Brave already has 40 million users. They can integrate it deep into the guts of their browser and then extend it through as both a Web 2.0 play and a Web 3.0 play. And we could do all kinds of crazy stuff on curation of information, man. Throw consensus into the mix as well. Make it multi-chain. God, we'd all die for that opportunity. It'd be a lot of fun to build. And he'd do pretty much no work and get a huge chunk of the credit. You could probably even launch it using Doge, wrapped Doge as the unit of account if you wanted to. That's a concession that can be made. So I never got it. I really don't. If it was like a $5 billion play or a $10 billion play, I get it. Say, oh, it's a vanity purchase like Larry Ellison buying Lanai, or Bezos buying the Washington Post, or these types of things. Exceedingly wealthy people buy shit. Walton just bought the Denver Broncos for $4.5 billion. Bit rich for my blood, and that happens all the time. But 44 billion, that's even rich for the richest man in the world. Hey, Charles, does Vassal fix the concurrency issue? There was never a concurrency issue, so yes. it's, it's like just another one of those lies. Yeah, when I say the integrity of Twitter, what I mean is the integrity of the company. I'm not implying like integrity as a moral virtue. I'm implying the integrity as a functioning organization, having a board, having an executive committee, having engineers, middle management, HR, all of these things. His mere presence in acquiring it means there's a mass exodus of people, and they're going to lose their entire executive committee. They're going to lose the board. They're going to lose their daily procedures and operations. So the organization goes into a crisis state where they could see attrition of half or more of the senior management of the organization. Now, you can argue that maybe they all need to be fired. The problem is, in their absence, there's no one to run anything. So you're going to run on a skeleton crew, and you have to rebuild. And meanwhile, you have billions of customers and shit to do and profit to make, unless you're prepared to run at a loss for a long period of time while you're rebuilding and refurbishing the company. This is why acquisitions of this size are generally mergers, not just straight up acquisitions. Like, with Microsoft trying to buy Yahoo, was comparable size. They were going to merge Yahoo with the Bing group, and Microsoft already had the management harness necessary to absorb Yahoo, something like that. Or like a bank buying another bank, and they merge together. There's a replication of all these facilities. There's no one at Tesla or SpaceX or any of these things that can just be plugged into Twitter and run the whole thing. So the integrity of the unit is compromised. You have to rebuild it. And if you're prepared to burn the op cost, the OpEx of the organization while you're doing that for 12 months or 24 months, it's a lot of work. And does he have the time for that while he's going to Mars and taking over the battery power car market and drilling holes in people's skulls to put wires in people's brains and drilling holes underground for the Boring Company and all the God knows what else he's doing? That seems important. Can you do it without Musk? Yes, it can be, and probably will at some point. I just haven't had the time. Why not help Truth Social with that idea? Because Truth Social is a perverse parody of itself. There's no truth on that platform. A guy gets banned, and he very angrily creates a carbon copy of the platform he was banned from so that he can go and continue to rant angrily about being banned from the platform that he so loved and was on. There's no innovation there. There's nothing in Truth Social that's interesting. There's no different way to do information curation. If you guys are interested in this topic, I did a YouTube video about it. I spent an hour, and I addressed the video to Jack Dorsey right here on this pad. I wrote all this stuff on the screen, and I explained how all these things work and took everybody through it. It was a huge amount of work to think about that. And we actually have a group of people that we could easily spin up to do a very interesting information curation. Things like veracity bonds behind claims, verified credentials to segregate the bot class, creating network incentives to curate information and actually verify information that's been shared. You can build a reputation system you can get a sense of the community reliability of people, create some stochasticism where people can actually get out of their circles and overlap and meet new people and so forth. You can do tons of stuff. We talked about that, and it's actually great technology in this respect. There's none of this in Truth. And there's no desire for any of this, because here's the problem. If you build that and that structure disagrees with something Trump says, that structure is wrong. because it's a cult. Every single thing he says and does is truth and the best thing in the world. That's what that's about, and that's what he built. He built an echo chamber. We see this in the cryptocurrency space. You see with BSV and what Wright has. Whatever people say, he's always right. That's the world that they live in. He's the prophet. So why would anybody willingly enter into that environment, that toxic work environment, and get covered in the molten tar of the association? If you want to build something, build it from the ground up, build it with the community, and demonstrate that it works at scale and that it converges to truth in this respect. And if you really believe there's a globalist agenda, a new world order, and these types of things, and they're out to get you, well, if the system is constructed, wouldn't it expose their agenda and their lies in the things that they say? Wouldn't it be resistant to censorship and manipulation and propaganda and demonstrate that the propaganda is there and is causing problems? Probably, if it's built correctly. So why does it have to be embedded in a highly partisan network that's beholden to a particular leader who doesn't seem to have a good relationship with the truth? It's funny though. You say that and they go, "Oh, you're a Biden lover." And then next week it's like, "You're a Trump supporter." It's like, that shows you how propagandized and polarized people are. No, I'm a free thinker. I don't belong to a political party. I'm not beholden by it. I have opinions and ideologies of my own. Matt to Davis, I'd like to get my 9-year-old involved in blockchain. Where should I start? Well, here's what you should do. Don't even think about blockchain. Don't think about any of these things. He's too young. What you need to do is buy a Raspberry Pi, the one that's made for kids. It's on Amazon. You can get it for like 50, $100, and there's all these beautiful lessons. And make your kid fall in love with hardware, so the electronic side, and software. They even have one where you can build a little robot, you can program it together, and you can have the robot walk and so forth. Get your kid in love with technology. Get your kid in love with a Raspberry Pi. Then what you need to do is teach your kid about Austrian economics. Teach them about economics for kids and get them in love with markets. Get them in love with scarcity, thinking about how people behave when confronted with scarcity. Then what you need to do is get your kid in love with systems theory and just kind of go into that field and say, how do I explain systems? Okay. If they love technology, economics, and systems, it'll be super, super easy for them to get into blockchain. They'll get it. They'll be a blockchain native in that respect. If you start with blockchain, it's like explaining the color blue to a blind person who's never seen it in their life. It's just, there's no reference. They can't understand it. What's Charles doing next week? Climbing a mountain in Nepal and pretending to market Ada. Oh, he's already done that. I never climbed a mountain in Nepal. One of the community members, Chico, if you're going to pretend to be a woman, which I suspect you do often, you really need, man, to get your lies straight. So there was a community member who climbed Mount Everest and took a Cardano flag to the top of it and actually was tweeting along the way and sharing the story along the way. Now that got sent my way over Twitter, and I was real excited about it. It was fun. And, doesn't market Cardano. Well, sure. But it tells you a little something about the type of community we have. And I know it might be hard for you to understand that there's an actual community, but they're tough people. They are real people. They can set goals and achieve them. They can do hard things, survive under tough circumstances, and they do it not because they're told to do it. They do it because they're inspired to do it. Again, all foreign concepts. I know you have a lot of difficulty there. But it's okay, man. You just Baby steps. You got to at least get your lies right. Okay. When is the Bison game coming out? We should have an announcement about Crypto Bison this year, more likely than not at the Cardano Summit. Why is Richard Hart better than you? Because he has much better twerking skills. Mm-hmm. Charles, why are you in such a condescending mood tonight? I don't know. Overworked, maybe. I am getting pretty fucking tired, though, of the criticism. It's like, come on, guys. It's Saturday night. I'm here at 10:30 at night. I'm not clubbing. I'm not out hanging out with you. I'm here with you. Come on. It's how I chose to spend my Saturday for you guys. Did you say that Lace will be released at Rare Bloom? Yep. Will be. Did you accept the basketball challenge? Hope not. They keep adding people to it that make it scarier. Yeah, I'll do it because I like Josh Miller, but he always drags me into these crazy harebrained things. Which alphabet agency is your least favorite? Begins, it ends with a C. I'm not saying nothing. Did you end up recording music video with Snoop and Champ? I ended up recording a music video with Champ Medici, and Snoop is, I think, going to be in it, but he didn't have the time to head to the ranch. But it was great to actually meet Champ. He came up and we spent a few days together, and he's a real cool dude. So that should come out probably this year. Charles, what's your favorite color? Black. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Namaste. Oh, okay. The alias is drop. I'm ready to fight. I'm not ready to fight you. Why would I? I'm in terrible shape right now. I'd have to train for 6 months. I mean, be good exercise, get in shape. You had your chance, man. I was fully prepared. We had Jason set up, all that stuff. I thought it'd be fun. Now it's like I've gotten fat and old. Look at the white here. You know, I'm taller than you. You'd still probably win. And to what end? What do we gain? What's the point? It was a great chance for us to come together and make peace, move on, you know, show that we could be bigger people and do something good for charity too. Now it would just be, it would look like like two fat old guys fighting each other at a barbecue. You know, some uncles get together, they've had a few too many beers, they start pushing each other around. You know, sweat's going everywhere, the t-shirts tear a little bit, man boobs. Come on, man, it's not so good. Go do something with your life. You know, what do you gain by being who you are? What kind of music are you into at this moment? I've been listening to a lot of dark wave, synth wave, and some of that chill stuff just to relax. Hello from Longmont. I'm a fellow mushroom farmer. Will there be any local Cardano events anytime soon? Come October to Rare Bloom. It's in Denver. It's not too far of a drive. You can take the toll road, and I'll see you there. Charles, if you weren't rich, do you think you'd have the same enthusiasm for crypto? Well, of course, we've already run that experiment. I was poor when I entered in crypto, and I had as much or more enthusiasm back then. This is the only place that we can go to actually change the world. Bump boobs and call each other names. It'll be like what was it? Fight Club. The guy with the man boobs from the cancer. He's just like hits him with the boob. Ah. Now this would be a fight. Vitalik versus Charles, boxing pay-per-view. I thought I could take him, but then I saw that picture at Stanford, and I was like, I don't know. Exactly right. You know, you're so pure. You got to keep it real, man. That's the key. You just got to tell people what's up. You just go out there and tell them what you think. Who gives a fuck what other people think? Just be yourself and be honest with people. That's the key to life. Some people love you, some people hate you. It's okay. It's okay. It'll all work out in the end. This one's a good one. Charles in charge of my days and of my life. That's an old television show. Mhm, mhm, mhm. Tentatively for input endorsers stock, we're looking at having the SIPs, at least preliminary SIPs, written for the summit in November. That's what we're working on. Might slip a little, but we're working hard on that. This is a blast from the past. How you doing with those microchips to authenticate items? We were looking at developing an open source trusted hardware module that we could use in currency identity chips, as well as things that could be put into a supply chain. And we explored it for quite some time. We provided some funding to the University of Wyoming, and that was one of the goals of the blockchain lab there. But it never really materialized, and it's unfinished business, and I haven't had time to come back to it. You know, and I looked at a lot of different frameworks. Like it would have been really cool to do a roll up with RISC-V, which is an open framework, an open instruction set to compete with RISC and CISC, the Intel instruction set. But we just couldn't get it done. You know, the COVID broke out and it slowed down everything on the production side. And then it was really hard to find talent. And then the head of the lab had some problems. And we just weren't able to really come back to it. We also had done some deals, like we did the New Balance deal, and that was cool. And we worked with Scan Trust and Tangem and these other guys. Pretty cool stuff. but I'd like to go back to it. Trusted hardware modules are pretty cool. Can't believe anybody even remembers that. That was a long time ago. Okay. No, I don't have the pull with Yamaha. I have a Yamaha story. So I'm getting back into the piano. I used to play the piano, and I ordered these 2 Yamaha Clavinovas that are like, digital pianos, but they're weighted just like a grand piano is. And they play just like them. They have all the pedals, and they acoustically sound like a Bosendorf or one of the top 9-foot Yamaha grands. So I put an order for 2 of these things, 2 of them, not 1, but 2, one for the ranch and one for, one of my homes here. And, they say, "Oh, yeah, we'll ship in August." Now it's October. I can't move the date. It's like Yamaha bows to no one. If Elton John calls up Yamaha, Yamaha will be like, "We are Yamaha, not you." You they're gonna when they're done, they're done. And sorry, man, there's no way I can pull rank. They're just gonna work it their own way because it's a good product. Yamaha makes really, really good products, and you'll be very happy when you get it. Can you tell us about your alternative ending to Game of Thrones? That'd be a 45-minute video, but I will do it one day. I'll make a commitment to it. Much better. Once you guys hear it, you'll be like, "Well, when are we making it?" Charles, are you concerned about emergent behavior via complex smart contracts, which would be out of scope of the original security model, e.g., chain derivatives or stake for hire market? No, because the model's composable. So those things, if they happen, will still fall under the original security assumptions. Charles, would you be interested in bug or cricket farming? We have a lot of hungry humans to feed. No. Oh, I see what you did there, Klaus Schwab. That's clever. No, people shouldn't eat crickets. Stop it. You're going back here to Danny's question. It's Danny's question. It's not a bad question. Complex smart contracts. So it's really a question of composability within the security model. And there's nothing you can do with Plutus that would violate the security assumptions of Cardano. Now, those security assumptions may have problems given emergent behavior. Like you could have some sort of a coalition of people coordinating with each other in unknown dark ways as a consequence of smart contracts being used in a certain thing. And then you get a dishonest majority, but you still need a dishonest majority in order to overcome the ledgers. So I just don't see how a particular smart contract would violate it. But if you have a paper of an attack, like a Ring of Gaia style thing, now, on the other hand, the DeFi protocols can be vulnerable because they're built on top and they have their own security assumptions for the funds they control. But transitively, it's not going to go to the base layer. It can't. That's why you do security proofs. What do you like being more, a crypto developer or your radio show? And that's the rest of the story. What is your favorite cigar? Is the Arturo Fluente. Will you ever prioritize creating a Charles Jr.? Well, isn't that already existing Charles Jr.? Carl Jr.? There's a franchise in there that sells hamburgers. Oh, is that Carl's Jr. or Charles Jr.? I can never remember. How about scorpions? Scorpions are delicious. I love scorpions. Charles, have you ever surfed on a longboard? Yes, in a different life. Game of Thrones or Lord of the Rings? Neither. They've taken them from me. Amazon owns Lord of the Rings now, and they've destroyed it. It's a woke mess. And then Game of Thrones, it's just, after season 8, all my love of it died. Favorite dinosaur? The plesiosaur. I love plesiosaurs. All right, let's see here. We're coming up at $1.30, so we will call it in just a moment. So you're a Breaking Bad guy. Come on, give me a good one. This is exhausting. Well, fucking tell me about it. Do you like movies about gladiators? Who doesn't like gladiators? Hey, Charles, why don't you move away from America? Isn't there any better place in the world? Hashtag good vibes. Well, Martin, United States of America is my home. I was born as an American. This is an American lobster right here, Logan the American lobster. And I will die in America. I'm a big believer that if you're part of something, a nation state, you should try to make your community better. You try to make your nation better. There's nowhere to escape to. If America falls, if we descend into a bureaucratic socialist chaos that ends up being social credit land, there's nowhere else in the world that's safe from that. This is the last bastion. It's always been the last bastion. It's where people flee tyranny from. That's just my opinion. And so I'm going to do everything in my power to try to make my neighborhood better. I didn't like the healthcare system, so I'm building a better one in at least Gillette. It's not the whole nation, but it's one community, and maybe we can make a difference. I didn't like a lot of things about how the financial system in the world works, so we're building a better one. We're building it from Wyoming, amongst many other places. That's my home. You stand up and fight for the things that matter to you, and even if they're inconvenient or they're hard, you don't stop. You just keep going, and you inspire people to take care of their home as well. Every place I go, I bought the ranch over in Wheatland. First thing I'm doing is helping the town of Wheatland out a little bit. Gave some money to the police department, fire department. Now I'm building a restaurant, create some jobs. Is it everything? No, but it's what I can do with the time I have, the resources I have, and my ability to execute being limited by the fact that I run 4 companies. So it's what I'm going to do. And I know that we have some hard times ahead of us because we have to come to terms with the fact that perhaps we didn't do things the right way for a long time. And eventually the check comes due. The credit bill comes due. And it's going to be probably another Great Depression. But my grandfather lived through a Great Depression, and his father lived through World War I and the Spanish flu. I think those times were just as hard, if not harder. And at the end of the day, if you keep your optimism high and your spirit high, your best days will be ahead of us. As a side note, if we make America better, if we make America a more peaceful nation, a more honest nation, a more transparent nation, and ultimately a better place to live, transitively, that will make the entire world better. Because America will be friendlier, more peaceful, less aggressive, and ultimately will be a model for the rest of the world, especially those who aspire to totalitarianism, to show the people of those countries you can do things a little differently. And that, as they say, is the rest of the story. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful Saturday. Thank you for spending mine with me. Cheers.